name's Nathan Turner and I'm the Country Manager for New Zealand for BlueFloat Energy. I joined BlueFloat in 2021 and I've got overall responsibility for our development pipeline here in New Zealand. After starting my career in a large commercial law firm in Australia, I then moved into the energy sector where I've now worked for more than a decade. During this time I've worked across gas, LNG, power and renewables in Australia, New Zealand and in Asia. I've had the luxury of working on some really large complex projects as well as in a number of emerging markets where regulatory frameworks were just being established. Before joining BlueFloat Energy, I worked for Transpower, who's the national transmission system operator for New Zealand. Throughout my career, I've spent lots of time working in joint venture structures, high levels of engagement with governments, with regulators and other energy market participants. And I think it's really this combination of experience which is most relevant for us starting a new offshore wind business here in New Zealand. It's a really exciting time to be part of the offshore wind industry here in New Zealand because it's just starting to get off the ground. New Zealand sits right in the heart of the roaring 40s and has an incredible wind resource. We've also got lots of coastline, and so the opportunity for New Zealand to harness this incredible wind resource is really significant. So right now, the government in New Zealand is working on establishing the regulatory framework for offshore wind, and they hope to have this in place by 2024. We're working really closely with government to ensure that the regulatory framework that's implemented is fit for purpose and takes into account the feedback from local communities and stakeholders. Iwi and Hapu, the Indigenous people of New Zealand, have a really important role to play in this, and we're proactively supporting them in co-developing this regulatory framework. Whilst New Zealand has a highly renewable power system today, thanks to abundant hydro resources, significant investment in new renewable generation will be required in the country to meet growing demand for electricity. Onshore renewables will clearly play a key role in this energy transition, but there's already evidence to suggest that due to a lack of social licence in some areas, development of new generation onshore will struggle to keep up with demand. Therefore, we think offshore renewables will play a really key role in ensuring that New Zealand can develop the amount of new renewable generation required to keep up with this increasing demand for electricity. So with this in mind, we're intentionally approaching our development in a way that ensures that the offshore wind industry evolves in a sustainable way, rather than just developing one or two projects. Taking this approach will ensure that benefits are maximised for the communities within which we operate. We're also working really collaboratively and transparently to ensure that we minimise any duplication of effort, as well as are respectful of the strain that we place on a limited pool of local expert resources. We acknowledge that shared infrastructure can mitigate environmental impacts, as well as the impacts on local communities. Partnerships are really important to us here in New Zealand and will be critical to our success. We've already partnered with Elemental Group, based right here in Taranaki. This passionate team provides consulting services and development services to the energy sector here in New Zealand as well as internationally. This team at Elemental Group brings strong local stakeholder relationships as well as lots of experience in delivering energy projects here in New Zealand. This is a perfect complement to BlueFloat's global expertise in delivering offshore wind projects. We know that BlueFloat won't be successful in New Zealand unless we first establish and then maintain our social licence to operate. In order to do this, we'll be working with local communities in an open and transparent way and engaging with them to seek feedback on our projects. We hope to build trust with these communities by taking this approach and by demonstrating our capability to operate in a socially and environmentally responsible manner. We believe that the offshore wind industry can create significant enduring benefits for New Zealand and the communities within which we operate. These include employment opportunities, supply chain participation, as well as the significant environmental benefits that come from significantly increasing renewable energy generation in the country. Māori people are the Indigenous people of New Zealand, and we acknowledge that they are the guardians of the land and the waters within which we operate, and should have a significant role to play in determining how the offshore wind industry develops in New Zealand. We acknowledge these iwi groups are not homogenous, and each of them have their own plans, strategies, and goals that we need to be respectful of. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to how we manage our relationships with iwi, and we aim to develop really enduring partnerships with them which takes into account their aspirations and their goals.